First insight is if we are all storytellers, let's live the best story we can tell.
My first insight is my dad says either you're a gentleman or you're a businessman. You can't be both.
My second insight is only a company that can create joy and meaning through imagination and empathy can survive the creative age.
My second is don't mind, I'll convert your art into business.
Every company or movement in the creative age must begin with defining its creative imagination, not its business model.
My third is better than insurance.
And our fourth, we will share with you at the end of our story session.
The next segment, stories behind the insights.
You know, there's a funny saying, when artists meet, they talk money, and when bankers meet, they talk art. But it's time we bring both of them together to the dinner table. In fact, I come from this very typical Tambram South Indian family, where we were not just served curd rice at the end of every meal, but existential crisis as well. When I was 7 years old, my dad looks at me and says, "Raghava, who are you?" I said, "Pa, I'm Raghava." He looks at me and he says, "But I named you. So if I change your name, will you change?" I said, "No." He said, "Then who are you?" I said, "I'm this person in front of you." He said, "Every cell in that person changes every 7 years. Who are you?" And everything that I was trying to identify with was either changing or not me. And we came to the conclusion that we are storytellers. And one of the things he said is, if you are a storyteller, go out and live the best story you can ever tell. Thank you.
So on my side, I've sold 2 companies in the past, and then I started the third, and then I've moved on. I have a few companies now. But when I took that leap from a working person to moving into doing a business of my own, unfortunately or fortunately, my whole family, my whole khandan is full of IAS, IPS, IFS, everybody. So there was no businessman in my family. We've never seen how business is or what business is up close. Maybe my dad used to have this thought that business are people who are those guys sitting in the shop, who's doing this, who's doing that. I think that's what it is. So I grew up with this question or the thought that my dad used to keep telling others that either you're a businessman or you're a gentleman. You can't be both, because businessmen can't stop lying or deceiving or hiding things or doing things for profits. Gentlemen don't do those things because they're gentlemen. That's why they can't turn businessmen. So when I first took the leap and started my business, I didn't tell my dad that it was my business. I told him that it's a company that I'm working as a CEO. And when I sold the company is when I got excited, and I told him that I sold the company, Dad. He said, "Whose company did you sell it?" I said, "Sorry, I forgot to tell you, it was my company." He said, "To ab kya karega?" Because for him, I realized that moment, money was not everything. It's about that whole art and love and passion of creation. So for him, it was a heartbreaking situation that with so much of love, effort, stress, that you've created something which became big and successful as per you, and now you've sold it. You're back on the road. Yes, you've got a pile of money, but what will you do now? So then I had to go back and tell him that running a company or running a business is like giving birth to a kid and raising a kid. And very lucky people in the world get a chance to do it over and over again. Some get once, twice, some get 3 times. I have been very lucky on that front.
You know, I think both of us are talking a lot about our dads. So keeping in that tradition, my father was having his favorite whiskey one evening, and he really believed that our education was hijacked by Industrial Revolution. And he felt that we need to enter the creative age. So I went to him when he was a little in high spirits, and I said, "Pa, what is the purpose of education?" He said, "Education is all about, good leadership. It's about citizenship. It's learning how to learn. It's about discipline." He gave me a big list. So I listened very carefully, and a week later I came back to him and said, "Pa, I'm going to do all of these things. And he was very emotional. He said, that's amazing. I said, I'm going to learn how to learn. I'm going to be a good citizen. I want to do all of this. And before you get emotional about it, why do I need to go to school if I can achieve all of this without going to school? So to cut a long story short, coming from an extremely academic family, I convinced him when I was in the 11th grade to quit formal education and become a cartoonist. I started my own school, taught over 5,000 children, and those kids became my educators and my teachers. Today, I have 4 children, and my wife and I made a very bold move a couple of months ago. We decided to pull our kids altogether out of education. Our children are not homeschooled. They're just not schooled, period. They go to a very unique experiment called Sudbury. And what they do there is they go through 4 stages. They check into school, and they climb trees, they play video games, they do whatever they want. But they go through 4 important stages. The first stage is freedom. My God, I don't have to study. I don't have to do anything. I can play in the mud all day. The second stage is boredom. They say, my God, what do I do now? I have nothing to do. And they start getting worried. The third stage is mild depression. A 5-year-old child goes through existential crisis because they don't know what to do with themselves. And the fourth stage is they take ownership of who they are. And if we teach our children at a very early stage how to deal with this, we can become, we educate them not for the Industrial Revolution, but for the creative age. And today, our companies are our children. Our employees are our children. And we need to educate them to deal with this question. Function, speed is not enough. We need to enter the creative age. And we need to know how to deal with who we are.
Yeah, so I did something wacky in my system, which is where the point comes that it's better than business, better than the insurance part of it. So what we did was, I realized that we'd done a lot of things like, for example, we did insurance for employees, we did programs for employees, we did benefit, we did so many things. That what I realized is, end of the day, there is only one king in the whole world, and that one king is cash. There's nothing bigger than cash. So what we did was, and fortunately, unfortunately, at the end of the day, it became that, okay, what are you doing more than the other guys are doing? The previous company gave me insurance, the next company will give me insurance. What's a big deal, you giving me insurance? And we thought we are doing good by giving them insurance. So what we did was, we created small piles of cash. Pile big enough to take care of emergencies. And we kept it in 4 locations. And created an escalation metric and gave it to every employee, saying, doesn't matter which band you are in, whether you're a guy who's drawing 10,000 rupees or you're a guy who's drawing 5 lakh rupees, your emergencies will be similar. Because you're a big guy does not mean that you'll have an expensive emergency and a small guy will have a smaller emergency. So expensives can be similar. You will have access to this money, does not matter what happened, no approvals required, no red tapes, no information. All these 4 guys are informed within my organization that whenever anybody calls you with an emergency, it's your responsibility to take the money and reach the emergency spot immediately. And that could be a hospital, that could be, and this is applicable for you and your immediate family. And in the last 5 years, we've unfortunately seen 2 such emergencies which actually worked. Somebody who had a major accident and had no other way to figure things out at that point of time. And the only thing that could have worked was money, because unfortunately the hospitals don't take you on without money. There's so many other things don't work without money. That's the only gate pass to many things in today's world. So that pile of cash for us today has bought loyalty, has bought love, has given us that feeling of family within the organization. They all feel it's us. And it has mattered so much more than just an insurance.
And finally, for my last story, when the iPad came out, it was a very exciting time because we were reimagining what reading could be, what storytelling could be in the digital age. And I was lucky enough to get one of the early copies before they launched to say, can you reimagine a storybook? And I'd just had my first child. So what I did was I made a children's book for the iPad about parents and children, potty training, diaper changing, tickling them, babies pooping, farting, all the things that kids love doing. But when you shook it, you suddenly had a lesbian couple bring up a child. Shake it, and you had a heterosexual couple. Shake it again, and you had a single parent. And what I wanted to do using this new tool was to deconstruct the ideal narrative of what a family meant. And if we could learn everything through perspectives and democratize truth and understand personal truths, then I thought we will build the much-needed empathy in the world. So I made another book that never saw the light of day, but I have it. It's a book about India's independence, very patriotic. Shake it, and you have Pakistan's perspective. Shake it, and you have the British perspective. And my argument is only companies today that are empathetic bring different perspectives. And that is what the creative age is about. It's about everybody matters, and everyone has their own truth. And today, we're moving into a space where everything is customized, and perspectives and empathy will take companies to the creative age. Thank you.
On the don't mind, I'll convert your art into business side, there's a very funny story which happened with me. Actually, two stories. One was a little funnier and one was more passionate. What we did was, my sister-in-law, my elder brother's wife, we knew her from a very small age because she's from a family that we knew the family. She used to scribble, do nice drawings and all that. We saw that grow. Eventually, since we knew her, and eventually my brother got married to her, and she came into the family, and she carried on that art. We have paintings all over the house, starting from a 4 square inch to a 4 square feet to a 40 square feet. My brother loves this passion and helps her with all this. At that stage, one day I went and told my brother that, why don't you sell some of these paintings? But he had this apprehension in his mind that my wife will feel bad I'm trying to commercialize her art. And when I went and told Bhabhi, she said, maybe if I ask brother for more money, it'll create problems. And sorry, change in weather. So I told them that you feel he's going to spend more. He feels you're commercializing. I think when you start talking, it'll work. In 2 weeks, we figured out how we can convert that art into business. Jaguar came on board as a sponsor. She did her first exhibition. She did 4 out of 10 exhibitions at India Habitat Center. And she's now been awarded as one of the best artists by the Andhra Pradesh government and Chief Minister. And now she has a studio of her own, and she makes over 10-15 lakhs a month just by people walking into her house and buying paintings. So the insight was that sometimes you need to talk, business will happen automatically.
And finally, for our fourth insight that we both developed together, we believe that story is the new money. Companies that understand this will flourish. And to leave you with one of the ideas that we discussed earlier was that, you know, my role, my job is to bring art, science, and storytelling together to evolve companies to the creative age. When I go to a CEO or a big head of a company, they say, are you going to do art for the office? Are you going to do illustrations for my book? And I say no. So I want to tell you a small story. When I was a kid, I discovered a small cassette player in my parents' house, a Walkman. And I listened to the tape that was in it. It was Simon and Garfunkel. And I fell in love with it. I didn't know who they were. They sounded beautiful. 2011, I get a call from someone called Bob Dylan. And he says, we heard your TED Talk. I want to work with you. Paul Simon and I are here, and we want to work with you. I almost froze. It was like God calling me. And I met Paul Simon in Times Square, and I said, okay, let's work. He suddenly says, you're an artist. I want you to do a CD cover. I said, wait a minute. I'm not that kind of artist. I thought I'm going to create philosophy with you. I'm going to rewrite your lyrics. I want to retell the music. If you want to collaborate, it's between equals. Where do you think I can be an equal with you? And what we did is we actually argued about the politics of aesthetics, and we rewrote his entire album. It's called So Beautiful or So What? And today, our collaboration is not just the art, it is the way we think. Art is a way of knowing, and story is the currency that will take anything and give it life. So,
in fact, in our business, in the One Digital business and the Zenga business, so a lot of these businesses are either tech-driven or content-driven. We've managed to pioneer the space in digital space. So while we help as a catalyst to get talented people, identify them, help them build fans, and then eventually make them big, and then they drive. So one such individual who's extremely talented works with us called Prajakta. So while she was working with us, YouTube very recently decided to honor her by throwing a party for her fans. We came to know that there was this guy who's a crazy fan of this girl. So what happened was we called this guy and we asked, are you free tomorrow? Because we kept ourselves in that shoe and thought, if I wish somebody called me and told me that I could go and meet Amitabh Bachchan or somebody else when we are somebody's diehard fan. We called this guy, we said, are you free tomorrow? He said, yes. I said, fine, check your email, we are sending you a ticket. You have to come and meet this lady, and with no commercial angles to it. Because this was, the guy came, he obviously met, and all that was ended very happily. But the thought was that in business, I have seen when you do sometimes mindless things which your heart says is good, always helps your business grow faster, always gives you that additional jump. So money will automatically follow. Does not matter how it happens. All you have to do is keep doing things which somewhere is right, and you're not doing it just with an angle. So everything, every step you take in business does not have to end up with a balance sheet, with a positive balance.
Thank you. I want to end with one line. You know, I'm not really rich, I'm not really famous, and my education was great. It taught me who I am. It put me in a very clear box. But it's my creativity that has taught me that I can be much more than my education taught me I am. And I hope to keep reinventing and seeing where my creativity goes. Thank you so much.
Wow, wow. That was an amazing confluence of art and business. Thank you so much. May I invite Anisha